Good afternoon, friends. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to make bruschetta. You know, I did a canning video on bruschetta just recently, and the taste of bruschetta is so wonderful. And I have a lot of tomatoes this time of year, and I know you all do too, if you're homesteading or growing a lot of your own food in your garden. But these are cherry tomatoes that I chopped up, several different varieties. I've got about 7-8 cups of cherry tomatoes. So the bare necessities for bruschetta are tomatoes, chopped garlic, and basil. You can also add a little white wine vinegar or balsamic vinegar and a little bit of olive oil. And this is for eating fresh. Now there are some optional ingredients you can also add to this topping for your bruschetta, and that is I'm going to add just a little tiny amount of crushed red pepper flakes and a small amount of oregano as well. And I'm going to use some very finely chopped red onion. We have our French baguette. I bought 2 of these. One of them I've already sliced up. You slice it on a 45-degree diagonal to make your slices. It just makes a little more surface area for your topping. And when you say bruschetta, that term actually refers to the bread and the toast. You can make this bruschetta toasted. You can put olive oil and garlic on your bread. You can put cheese on your bread, whatever you like. I'm going to just toast this plain because I think my bruschetta topping with the tomatoes and all the nice spices is going to be plenty of flavor, plenty enough flavor for this dish. And I've got some of the rest of that loaf of bread there ready to go into the oven. I just wanted to show you. I'm going to toast that in a 400-degree oven for about 5 or 6 minutes. Just enough to make it toasty. And then, because this is kind of a potluck affair, I'm going to make my bruschetta topping separately and take it separately from the bread to the dinner, because when we get there we'll assemble it. And I'm going to also have, like I said, you can put a little bit of balsamic vinegar in this to make it, or white wine vinegar gives it a little more delicate taste. I'm going to have a balsamic glaze so that people can take their toast, put the topping on it, and then maybe a little bit of that glaze, and that'll be really good. Another option is you could put cheese on the bread, and then your topping, and then the glaze. So however you want to do it. So let's get started. This is so easy, really. It's just to mix and serve. And I've got fresh basil. You do need fresh basil. I got this from my garden, and I also bought a plant from the grocery store for a couple dollars. You know, you can buy a fresh basil plant. It's got probably enough leaves on it to do one recipe. So I'm going to just chop these up, what they call chiffonade. I'm going to roll the leaves together and chop them and make strips. And that'll be real pretty as it goes into our bruschetta topping. And we're going to throw this together. You'll be surprised how quickly this comes together. Well, I'm going to try and show you how you prepare this basil to be chopped. This is the easiest way. It's called chiffonade. And you put your leaves together. You kind of roll them up. It's difficult to do one-handed. There we go. I've got those leaves rolled up, and then you just take your knife and slice acrosswise. You just make slices, and it makes kind of like ribbons of basil. Here's some that I've already done. So this is called chiffonade. And I've taken a pastry brush and a little cup of our olive oil, and I've just brushed the tops of these pieces of bread with a little bit of olive oil. That'll give them a nice crust, and the olive oil will make a nice seal on the bread so that when you eventually apply the tomato topping, that it won't soak into your bread so quickly. It'll prevent it from being quite so soggy. I'm going to put a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top of all of these bruschetta here. I think that's going to make a little extra taste zing. So just a little sprinkle of cheese, kind of give the bread a little bit of extra flavor. Parmesan has got a nice little bit of salt to it, and the topping that we have is tomatoes, so they can take quite a bit of extra salt. And you can see I've lined my pan with parchment paper because I knew I was going to be putting some cheese on here and I didn't want it to stick to my pan. So just a little, you know, you take a minute now, a little extra prep, and then you don't have so much cleanup later. Got to always be thinking ahead when you're cooking of ways to make your job easier and make it come out nicer, better. Oops, I see one that I didn't top here with olive oil. It's naked. There we go. Okay, so we've got just a little bit of Parmesan on our bread slices. We've got the oven preheated to 400, and we're going to pop these in for about 5 minutes. It's looking good, looking good. So into the oven we go. They're starting to look good, so we're going to put the broiler on and broil these for a minute. I did go into my refrigerator and put extra Parmesan on top of the bread, so I think a little extra wouldn't hurt. And here they are. They were in the oven, 400-degree oven for 5 minutes, and then the broiler for another minute. Looks pretty good. If you wanted it a little crispier, you could even go another half a minute or a minute under the broiler if you want, but I think this is going to be good. Looks perfect to me. Here is our second batch that I let broil just a little bit longer, a little bit toastier. Very subtle difference. I think it looks good. So I'm getting these put into a pan to take to the function tonight, and then we'll get our topping put together. All right, this phase of the project is going to be quick and easy. It took me about an hour to chop these tomatoes, so I shouldn't say it's completely quick and easy, but I spent some time de-seeding them also, and you don't have to do that. I like to have mine in chunks about, you know, about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. I don't want it too fine, but I don't want it big hunks either. Like I've seen some recipes where they ask you to just have the cherry tomatoes. I think they need to be at least quartered. And then we're going to use 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. This is 4 big cloves of garlic. And I've got here about, I would say about 1/3 to 1/2 cup of fresh basil. Not anything too much for a dish about this size. We're going to put, this is optional. Now those are the 3 main ingredients. So the basic ingredients for every bruschetta topping would be your chopped tomatoes, your garlic, and your basil. Then when you're serving this fresh, you also probably want to add a little bit of olive oil. So this is about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And about 1 tablespoon of either balsamic vinegar, or I'm using white wine vinegar. And about 1 tablespoon is really all you need. Then these are the optional ingredients. I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of oregano because I like things a little bit more flavorful than just the basics. And I'm going to add just a little bit of these red pepper flakes. They'll give it some zing, but you won't even know they're in there. And I'm going to add a little bit, I'm not sure I'm going to use this whole thing. I'm going to add half of this. This is finely diced red onion, and it can be kind of a strong flavor, so I'm not going to put the whole thing in initially. I'll reserve a little extra in case I need it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is mix this all up together. Oh, we can't forget our salt and pepper. So we're just going to add maybe 1 teaspoon of salt. Since these are tomatoes, they can take some salt. And you can either use whatever kind of pepper you have on hand. I happen to love white pepper, so I'm going to use white pepper, but you can certainly use black pepper. Just a little bit. That'll give it a really nice flavor. Okay, so let's get this all mixed up. And that's all there is to making this dish. just basically everything fresh mixed together. You want to let it sit. You can sit out on the counter, or you can put it in the refrigerator. Since I'm not going to use it until this evening, I'm not going to use it for 4 or 5 hours, so I'm going to put mine in the refrigerator to marinate. Oh man, looks beautiful. It's almost impossible to get too much basil in this dish. I have so many tomatoes, like 7 cups at least. Alrighty, so that's it. I'm going to cover this, put it in the refrigerator, and we will enjoy it later this evening. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to add the rest of the onion. I'm going to taste it before we set out this evening, and if it needs a little more of that onion zing, I'll add the onion. And if not, I'll leave it out. So it's up to your taste buds, however you want to spice this up. Well, I did end up using the rest of the red onion, and here's the finished product. We topped this with some balsamic glaze, and it was absolutely delicious. So don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, and we will see you all again next time. Bye now.